What's up? This is Engineering Aquariums. I'm your host, Sean Fennig. Welcome to episode 5. The question is, can I do it for cheap? Can you set up a saltwater aquarium for little money? Simple answer, yes. Longer answer, there's a reason this video is a few minutes. So yes, you can. You can set up, and this is where it becomes critical, is it depends what you want to do with it. If you want a tank that takes care of itself, like I wanted. If you want a tank that you like designed fully, or that has some cool technological advantages to it, or some of the newest gadgets, if you want any of those things, give up, because you will not do it for cheap. One thing will lead to another. You won't do it for cheap. If you can go in with the mindset that is, I have $500 in my bank account, that is all I can spend on the entirety of this project for all of its lifetime, you could probably do it. $500, probably, if you don't screw anything up for the entirety of the, there's my little coral beauty. If you don't screw it up for the entirety of its life cycle. For just setting it up, I've seen numbers as low as $50 to $100, and that's new. That's not used. Craigslist is your friend. Look up people selling their tanks. Most people are moving. Honestly, buy those tanks. Don't buy the tanks that people crashed for whatever reason. And I know that sounds a little picky, but if there's a lot of stuff you have to do when you're getting a new tank or a used tank, cleaning stuff out and whatever. But if it just simply has the design flaw that it just makes it hard to do something that you can't foresee, that's why I personally wouldn't get a tank that someone just crashed. That was my first tank, was someone didn't want their tank anymore. It's not that they were moving, it's not that they needed to give it up and they didn't want to. They were done. So yeah, you can do it for cheap. You can probably get a little fuel like this, and the light that comes with it is really strong. You could probably keep, as long as your water changers were good. I mean, the tank itself is kind of expensive because it comes with its own little filtration in the back, but it comes with its own pump. So you could probably do it for $200-300 for a 2.5 to 5 gallon tank. I'd say under $200. If you guys want specific help with any specific task, let me know. I'd happily sit down and help you guys design it. You can do it for cheap. Again, there's caveats. You got to do it small, and you've got to want to do it for cheap. You can do a 40 gallon for cheap, no problem. I've seen people do 120 gallons for cheap. Now, at that point, you start pushing it. I honestly wouldn't go above 40. CJ, as Aquarium, said the same thing. I wouldn't go above 40 gallons with an all-in-one. And that's where you're going to save your money, is by doing an all-in-one type tank where stuff is in the back, or you just have very minimal amount of things. I saw a tank today that was, it had a little pump in it that fed up to 2 reactors that were basically this thing, 2 BRS reactors. Had carbon in one side. It had carbon in both sides and polyfilter. This guy was insane about polyfilter. And that works. It worked for him. He had soft corals. He wasn't keeping, well, he did try to keep an acro and it failed. You're not going to keep the cleanest water ever. I would recommend a protein skimmer for anyone starting. I would, even just a small hang on the back, even a do-it-yourself protein skimmer. But something, even if it skims really wet, treat it as a water change. But I would definitely keep a protein skimmer. You don't have to. For the guy who had the 2 reactors, totally would have worked fine. I personally would have had, he had carbon and GFO, and then he took out the GFO, and then he had carbon in both. I'd put algae in one side and put a little like LED light around it, make a macroalgae reactor. For those who don't know what a macroalgae reactor is, Google it. There's a lot of cool designs out there. It's a newer thing. And this video was older, so I understand why it wasn't done at the time. But yeah, you can do it. You can do it for cheap. Again, I would not expect your corals. I would not expect an acropora to live in your tank and double its size in 3 months with a cheap, easy setup. I would not expect that. I'm not saying it's undoable, but you are going to sacrifice a little bit. You don't have to sacrifice a lot, especially to keep up on your water changes and your maintenance. I've seen some exquisite reefs, especially Elite Reef in Arvada, Colorado, has nano and pico tanks with some exquisite hard corals and acan lords and zoanthids and stuff like. And I know zoanthids and acanthars aren't that hard to keep, but they're doing a good job with what they have, and it's maintenance. They keep on top of their water changes 50%. I think they do 50% a week or something, which is a bit excessive. But if you have a small or no filtration, it's what you got to do. Very little stocking of fish. Testing the water, adding the trace elements it needs or the non-trace elements like calcium, magnesium, alkalinity if need be. And they don't chase numbers. I was talking with the guy there. Your smaller tanks, your alkalinity is going to be 7. It's going to be 6.75. That's okay. Your salinity should be where it is, but your pH is going to be lower. It's going to be 7.8. Maybe 8.0, but you don't have the same water volume. That being said, be careful with what you put in your tank. Even putting your hands in a tank that small could really screw some stuff up if you haven't properly prepared your hands. I personally don't do anything that special. I just think back, hey, last half hour, have I touched anything dangerous? Anything like that. If I have, I rinse my hands off and then wait a little bit and then rinse them off once more. Otherwise, not a big deal. If you have a smaller tank and it's a smaller amount of water volume to screw up, you're going to have a larger concentration of whatever bad thing you put in there if you accidentally put a small amount in. So yeah, bigger tanks are easier. You can do bigger tanks for cheap, and by easier I do mean with water chemistry. That's about it. There is more maintenance with them. So it's really about what you're doing. Like I always say, engineer your aquarium for you. That's why it's your aquarium. If any of you guys need help with that, making it cheap, I'll do a video here on making it expensive. We'll talk about that. Drop some comments, drop some answers, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you're doing. Let me know what I should be doing. We'll talk about that. Yeah, this is for our education. Let's learn together. Thank you for joining me on Engineering Aquariums.